welcome to a very special episode of Unfinished Business. As you can see, I have my thinking cap on. This episode, we're going to take a look at each of our top 10 lists of our favorite films of 2022 and talk maybe a little bit about each other's picks or just the films chosen. I'm sure there will be some similarities, but you guys know me and Andre. We get along, but sometimes we have vastly different tastes when it comes to films. So, again, hi, I am your host, Jeff Galashaw, and with me, as always, is friend, co-host, a film entrepreneur, director, filmmaker, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
My honorable mention is The Boy Behind the Door, even though it's not a 2022 movie.
Okay. That was random. I was about to say, since we're just doing random ones, mine is Petite Mon Mon. Even a French film that came out last year. That did not come out, but I didn't see it till 2022. If we're just going to throw out stuff, again, showing different tastes here. So, Andre, I'm going to let you go first as the co-host. What is your number 10 film of 2022?
Well, for a year that was not the greatest for film, my number 10 was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Wow. A movie I will say I enjoyed, but did not make any of my list, except for maybe What the Fuck. And I did enjoy the score, strangely enough, of that. I don't know why. I just really dug it. That's a film I enjoyed. We saw it together. It showed Nicolas Cage in his element as Nicolas Cage, or a version of Nicolas Cage. It could have been a little wilder for my taste.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it for what it was, and it had that kind of buddy comedy feeling, meta quality that was totally fake with his family. But also, the strange thing when it comes to that movie is that it has David Gordon Green, the director, playing himself in that movie. And then David Gordon Green has the most interesting 2022 because he also has a cameo in Bones and All for no particular reason. And then he directs Halloween Ends, So he's like one of the busiest people of 2022. Hey, he had 2 victories. I'll let the audience choose which they are. So, is there anything else you'd like to say about your number 10 pick?
Just that it's a nice love letter to the man, and I love Pedro Pascal's performance. Yes, I wish it could have been wilder. I wish there could have been a lot more references to his past films. There were some missed opportunities, some of it, which I guess was because of COVID. But overall, I mean, I feel like this was the start of a comeback for the man, for Mr. Nicolas Cage.
I don't think it was the start. I think it's just part of that leveling up of his comeback until he has the reconnaissance. Again, I just wish maybe a few more celebrity cameos would have been nice too. Yeah. A random John Travolta cameo, he's free. But my number 10 film is a film I know you probably didn't see, and it is the Indian epic RRR, available on Netflix.
A lot of people thought that got snubbed for the Oscar.
For Best Original Song and maybe Best Foreign Film, I would agree. I really enjoyed this film. I will admit, I have not seen a lot of Bollywood movies. But this had everything of every genre except for maybe sci-fi and supernatural. It had everything you could ask for. Period piece, tons of action, death-defying stunts, musical, buddy comedy, romance, slavery, and whatever you could look for. Child trafficking. Everything was here, So I was like, yo, this movie deserves to be seen. They even have it on IMAX on some screen. That is how huge this movie is. And as we were talking in some other episodes, yeah, it's over 2 hours. It doesn't need to be that long. But it's short by Bollywood standards. But I really enjoyed this film. This is one of the films of this year. I can say, beginning to end, it was just a good time all around. I have nothing bad to really say about the film. So I just loved it. I didn't know where it was going from the beginning. It surprised me many times. I thought everybody was talented. I like that it was made by an all Indian crew. It wasn't like, oh, Slumdog Millionaire. you know, and I like that Ray Stevenson plays the villain. That is the most random. Like, one of the only big names in this film. It's like Ray Stevenson, the Punisher. So I just really enjoy it, and I highly recommend it. I think if you gave it a chance, you'd enjoy it. And just make sure you have time to watch because it is long. Okay, so Andre, what is your number 9 film of the year?
My number 9 film was Pearl.
Wow!
I think for an odd prequel to a movie like X to go back to like that Wizard of Oz type of era and how it explained the backstory of Pearl, it was phenomenal. And Mia Goth knocked it out the park. Ty West, it's Ty West, right?
Yeah, it's Ty West.
Yeah. I want to make sure there's a lot of ties out there. Okay. No, I thought it was fantastic, and it got me excited for Maxine.
I was excited for Maxine no matter what. Pearl, I'm shocked, did not make my top list. It does garner an honorable mention because, again, I thought Mia Goth, Oscar-worthy performance, or at least Oscar nomination-worthy performance. And I actually like it more than I like X. I think this one is more of an oddity than X. X feels like, okay, we've seen this before, but it's fun. This one, I felt like there was a dramatic story with all the bloodshed. And she gave her all in a performance, and it seemed like it was perfect for Mia Goth. She didn't have to go under makeup to play 2 characters again, So I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I wish I would have put it on my top list, but I didn't. But I definitely recommend people to go see it. I can't wait for Maxine. They're going to film soon. And my number 9 is another film I'm sure you didn't watch on Netflix. Bardo Parks Chronicles of A Handful of Truths by Alejandro Inarritu. It is, again, him doing a Fellini-esque movie, that is obviously semi-autobiographical. It's surreal. It involves family, country, culture. It has the best, next to Top Gun, some of the best cinematography of the year. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I don't know any of the actors really in it, but I enjoyed this definitely more than I enjoyed Roma. I felt like Roma was his look at the past. This one was more his look at his present, and also it was kind of like his kind of confessions about his thoughts and himself that usually most keep inside their head, but he decided, let me put film around it. And it does show a love of film and what it can do. I really enjoy it. It's a last minute, because if you go online and look at my top 20 films, this was not on it because I had not seen it. But since I saw it recently and we're doing the show today, I can change it if I want to. So this is why this is my number 9. Comment if you want, please. Online. But I don't know if you'll dig this as much as you dug RRR. So that's why I'm like, yeah, see it if you just want to try it. So Andre, what is your number 8 movie? And
my number 8 is going to make you laugh because we're continuing trying to hear. My number 8 is X.
I was going to ask if X made your list.
It did.
Well, I am happy that it did make your list. I know you had told me that you like X more than Pearl.
Yes, I did. Just that era, the music, obviously the creepy factor of it, and the cast. I mean, yes, you have Mia Goth in both films, but this one had Jenna Ortega, Scott Speedman in a role I did not recognize him in, and Brittany Snow. Oh my God. Big Cuddy, who I was sad they killed off the way they did, but just a solid thriller and a real throwback to that era.
I agree. Totally 70s, 80s type, horror film, kind of gives you clues into the future. And of course, wants you to know what the past of the character is, played by Mia Goth as the older lady. like I said, I enjoyed it. It just did not make an honorable mention or my top list, but I think it's a pretty solid film. And again, Brittany Snow. But Mia Goth, Kid Cudi, Jenna Ortega in a surprising role for her. Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I liked it, but I just didn't like it apparently as much as you. I'm shocked that you have so much horror on your list because you're not usually the horror guy. So I am.
Few people get me in horror these days.
Hey, I applaud you for your pick. My number 8. Netflix should just get a plug and sponsor this show because it's a film.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, another Netflix movie. Number 8 is All Quiet on the Western Front, based on the infamous novel. It's a German film. It's actually surprisingly nominated for Best Picture. Even I was shocked it got that nomination because I thought it would just be in the background as one of those, oh, you should see, but we're not giving it anything. And it's nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. I mean, everybody's seen war films, so you know what to expect. There's no females in this movie; it's all men. I mean, it does make you feel sympathetic for Germans, but again, they're people too, and their history, and especially when they're on a losing war. And as usual, it shows the troops have to pay for the decisions of bureaucrats who don't have to see any action. It shows you the brutality of war. Losing friends and comrades right in front of your face to like senseless violence. The things you have to do when you're not even getting rations from your own superiors. And I'm sure some people are gonna be like, "Oh, this scene reminds me of 1917, the battlefield." It's war. It all looks the same. But they're supposed to change their vision for you. But again, I think it's definitely a good war film. It doesn't feel like a typical war film. It really pulls you in. So I highly suggest it. And that is why it is my number 8. Andre, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is Glass Onion.
Wow. I did not expect that. Depending on when this episode is coming out, we gave a full review of this movie. But why did it make your top 10?
Because I had a joy with the performances. Yes, the story was a little bit on the nose with where it was going, but everybody, I mean, Daniel Craig exploring more of Benoit Blanc was something I really wanted to see. Janelle Monáe was excellent. Edward Norton playing that pricky Elon Musk type was excellent. The set design and, it made me excited for more stories of Benoit Blanc solving murders, So I think it was, compared to a lot of what I saw this year, it's up there. It's probably one of the better sequels. And just to let everybody know, no Marvel movie made my list. So that's a little spoiler for me.
Understandable, but wow. I enjoyed the movie. It didn't make any of my list. I'm going to be honest, but I enjoyed it for what it was. My number 7 film, finally not a Netflix movie, is Disney's Turning Red. I really enjoyed that film. Coming of age, dealing with young female characters, a young character of color, so it explores culture, puberty for girls. A world I will probably never know. But yet it kind of transformed it into a typical Disney cutesy story, and even with a boy band. But I really enjoyed it, and you know me, I'm not a big animation fan, and I think this is the best animated film I have seen this year, and maybe one of the few animated films I saw this year. And I really enjoyed it. It really had an effect on me. By any chance, did you see it?
No, but I'm aware of the movie.
Okay. So again, so far you haven't seen any of my list. I'll end it there with my number 7. So, Andre, what is your number 6 movie?
My number 6 movie is The Black Phone.
Interesting choice. Why is it your number 6?
Sinister Turn by Ethan Hawke. Just the simple nature of the story, again, like X being set in the 70s, so having that vibe. And it felt like a short story done as a condensed 90-minute horror film. And Scott Derrickson certainly specializes in that, and that's one of the reasons why I love it.
I liked the film. It made my honorable mention list. I will admit, when I saw it in theaters, it gave me a jump in one scene. Like I said, it feels like a short story, just, maybe a little more elongated to give it a little more, I guess, not filler, but, to round out the characters a little more instead of them being caricatures, other than the dad. But I wanted to say, next to the first Doctor Strange movie, this is probably one of my favorite Scott Derrickson's film.
Yeah.
Because while I enjoyed Sinister, that felt a little more typical. This one feels like, no, this is a tried and true, like, horror original that has that coming of age aspect, but also that horror aspect, and just a little bit of supernatural, but not for you to roll your eyes and be like, come on, So I enjoyed it. And as typical, like with kids, it's kind of like that Stephen King kind of even though really, there's no, I guess you could say, Stranger Things gang together. But again, it deals in the world of children more than it does, adults. But I also like the kind of twist it throws in towards the end. My number 6 film, finally a horror, is We're All Going to the World's Fair. I freaking love this film on HBO Max. And I will admit, last year when you first saw ads for it, I was like, what the fuck is this? This looks like some experimental thing I would not be into. And I gave the film a chance, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's a good character study. It's inspired by that creepy pasta type stories. It has a lot of surreal images that was very shocking. And it keeps your interest, even though really it's only 2 characters for the most part in the film. And obviously it's filmed with more cameras on computers and cell phones. But they managed to keep it captivating. And for once, one of the films I can actually talk about where I loved the score for. Like, this, I think, was my number 2 favorite soundtrack of the year. So it's a haunting score by Alex G. That's a little electro, a little emo, but it does its job. And finally, I put a horror film on my list because you think you were the horror guy with your list. We're getting to the top. What is your number 5 film?
My number 5 is the movie we just talked about, Top Gun Maverick.
Okay, Top Gun Maverick. That did make my list, but it was more like my number 12 or 13, not my top 10. Since we've already reviewed it, why is it on your top 10?
It's just a solid sequel that doesn't make the mistakes that most sequels do these days. The realism of the fight scenes, a far stronger story than the original Top Gun, but still having those vibes of the Tony Scott 80s style with the Harold Faltermeyer music, and Kenny Loggins doing the soundtrack. Everything about it, down to just, having that sort of dilemma between Maverick and Rooster over the death of Goose, I think really pulls the movie together. Yes, the third act is a little clunky, but it works.
Okay. Well, like I said in my review, I enjoyed the film for what it was. Again, like you saw Top Gun later in life, so it didn't loom as large. I just knew about it. So, this, I guess it wasn't as long a wait for me between the original and the sequel, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Great popcorn movie, a little above and beyond than most because of the cinematography, the fight scenes, the male bonding. So, I was shocked I enjoyed it as much as I did as late as I saw it. I have a funny feeling our top 3 is going to be the same, but I'm going to go with my number 5 movie, which is the Cate Blanchett starring movie, Tar. Yes, I went with a prestige film. I didn't expect to like it, and my first time I watched it, I was like, okay, I'm uncertain about this film, but there's something there other than Cate Blanchett's masterful performance. Then I watched it again, and I was just mesmerized as more things, for me at least, came into focus. And other than her performance, the film is mostly taken from her point of view. And it's basically a rise and fall story. Well, she's already at the top in the beginning. And then we see her fall, and we're never given 100% details, but we see how and what helps, lead to her downfall, and how, like, people who are loving towards her in the beginning, how they're treating her as she falls. And she doesn't 100% not deserve it, but it's still, like, painful to see someone go through it. And I thought it was just mesmerizing. Next to In the Bedroom, I think this is, for me at least, one of Todd Field's best films, and that's a nice return for him to making movies after such a long time between films. I feel like this is more of a character study, and again, a very long one. But again, I just loved it from beginning to end. And also, it does have a little bit of how media can manipulate also in a story, even if you're guilty. Maybe you're not as guilty as they are trying to make you seem, and how some of it might be more personal than actual facts. So, again, I highly recommend this movie. I'm going to admit, for some of you, it might be boring, but I was captivated throughout, but also I'm a huge Cate Blanchett fan. So, Tar is my number 5. Andre, what is your number 4 movie?
My number 4 movie is a movie that I waited decades for, and I was not disappointed. It was Chippendales Rescue Rangers.
That almost made my list, but it just missed.
I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. As meta as it was, it felt like a love letter to the Disney afternoon era that I grew up with, and also all those Saturday morning cartoons and the Disney shows, and even the nod to the Ugly Sonic. So yeah, I could. They did it the right way. If we're never going to get a Roger Rabbit sequel, I think this is pretty damn close.
I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. I also was a kid of the Disney afternoon. And again, it feels like a modern version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, except without the mystery so deep. But I really enjoyed it, probably more than I should have, especially the Ugly Sonic scenes. And this is from somebody who hasn't still seen any of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. But in my defense, I did see the cartoons. But I love this film. I don't know why I didn't put it on my top list, but it is a film like I love and highly recommend to anybody out there. Again, one of the few animated films I saw this year that I truly enjoyed, other than Turning Red.
Just the zipper and gadget stuff is like, ugh. No.
That was its only, like, you're asking a bit much here. But at least it was the original voice of Gadget.
Yes.
I'll give them that, you know. This is our number 4 movie, right?
Yeah, number 4.
Okay, my number 4 movie is a film I actually turned down going to see with you in theaters. And I ended up watching it on streaming and ended up loving it. And it is Decision to Leave, a foreign film about a detective who's investigating a case, and he falls in love with the suspect, who is the dead man's wife. But it's about a lot more. It's truly a romance, not so much a crime story, as it goes further than the basic plot line that was just said. But it's also a story. I don't want to spoil for anybody, but it is one of the most romantic films I've ever seen recently. And it's from a director who I have loved his work with Old Boys, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, that trilogy, the Vengeance trilogy, and even a movie that I feel a lot of people slept on, The Handmaiden, from a few years ago that came out the same year as Moonlight. And I'm just happy that he made another captivating film full of style, romance, and amazing visuals. So that is my number 4 movie. Now, probably for the familiar, what was your number 3 movie?
My number 3 movie was The Fabelmans.
And before you even say anything, same here. So go ahead.
I just relate to it. I relate to Spielberg's upbringing, and I've heard some of those stories in interviews about his parents and how he got into film, and to see that depicted on screen, it just, I fell in love with it. And I know we've said like 52577 has a lot of similar things going on there, but this one, as a polished studio film, you feel Spielberg's heart going into this from start to finish. And I can't say that it's not his best work, but it's certainly better than a lot of what he's put out recently.
Oh, I was gonna say more in the past than recently. I've actually liked this stuff. Look, I've said what I had to say about the film in our review. It even has a great ending cameo.
Yes.
You have Judd Hirsch nominated for his one scene. It's just a film for anybody who loves movies and loves filmmaking, and a coming of age story. Just everything. Everything kind of rings true for anybody who's had that love since an early age. So I can't say enough good things about it. It still wasn't, number one, but damn near close enough, So I have to say, this is definitely a movie you guys have to go see when you can, where you can, especially as a lover of movies.
Yeah.
Again, since it was my number 3, we'll just go to number 2, which I have a feeling I know what it is. So let's see. It's almost like we're on The Price is Right. Let's see what your number 2 is, Andre.
My number 2 was a movie that surprised me very much. That was The Menu.
Wow, we differ here. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, The Menu, I looked at those trailers and I thought it was going to be one thing. Then I see the movie and holy shit, this was basically Get Out meets Knives Out. And the social commentary of it, the way it twists and turns, and just the performances, and bringing back people like Judith Light to the screen, like holy shit, that's really cool. Having John Leguizamo impersonate Steven Seagal in the film, Ray Fiennes being like the Gordon Ramsay of the movie, but like a killer Gordon Ramsay. I find no fault with this film, and I thought there was some funny shit that went on in it that really got me entertained, and I wanted more. And I was even hungry for some of that food once it was done. So I think that was really like up there as one of my favorites. And we need Eric Cohen to come on and talk about it, since he's the foodie of all of us.
The Menu made my top 20, but it did not make my top 10. I don't know if I'd like to taste some of these dishes, but it's like they're more snacks and meals. So it'd be like, I think you'd still be hungry after, unless you get the burger.
I don't know how you eat a rock.
You eat around it, or you lick it for the salt. I don't know. I enjoyed the film. I can't say it was top 10 material. To me, it offered a few more twists, but what I saw in the trailer, I kind of still expect. I just didn't expect it to have as much of a sense of humor as it did, I guess. Anya Taylor-Joy, of course, another hard worker throughout the year, looks ravenous in this film. Nicholas Hoult, his role as her date. John Leguizamo, who I did not know was like 63, so. But he more brought the characterization of playing Steven Seagal than was in the script. My favorite line, I went to Colombia. Were you on financial aid? You deserve to die. That was my favorite line the whole movie. Ray Fiennes, as always, can do no wrong in my eyes in performance. So I enjoyed the film, but it just didn't make my top 10. My number 2 movie is the film I thought you were going to say, which is The Worst Person in the World. It's
a 2021 movie.
I put it down as my 2022 because that's when I saw it. And that's when it was released in theater, if you weren't a critic, a professional critic. So it is my number 2 movie. We reviewed it. I love it for so many reasons. Another romantic, anti-romantic tale. Foreign films, or that's my catnip. A beautiful leading lady. Yeah. Can't wait to see her in Mohr. Great soundtrack. What more can you ask for? I mean, I think it's a film that's still being slept on. It's on Amazon Prime. You don't have to pay for it if you have Amazon Prime. So I think a lot more people should discover it. But like I said, we've reviewed it. It's just a great film that feels like an older coming of age tale rather than, childhood to adulthood. It's like, what do you do when you're in adulthood and you're still getting older? And what do you do with your life? Now we get to our number one movie, which I think we pretty much agree on. But I'll let you say it. What is the number one movie of the year on our list?
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Exactly. We praised the film on Instagram. We've praised the film on our show. If you haven't seen it by now, what is keeping you? It's on Showtime. It's online for free. What are you? At this point, I just have to be like, either you're afraid of trippy films or you're anti-age.
This movie is fucking blessed.
Yes, this is... I can't find any faults only because it is so in your head and over your head that it's like, what am I going to argue here? Yeah. It's one of those untouchable films. I know there's been a big backlash against it online all of a sudden for no reason, really. I'm like, again, that either you just want some studio film that you're more comfortable with winning, and this you didn't quite understand, or you're anti-human.
I've said time and time again, and I've said this to my friends, this is the movie that Doctor Strange in a Multiverse of Madness should have been. It should have been that wild, that trippy, and that experimental. And what we got in that movie was only 25% of that trippiness. This film was not only just trippy, it was a love letter to the work of Michelle Yeoh and her film career. It brought back one of the most underrated child actors of the 80s in Ki-Hai Kwan and made him look like a fucking superstar. It took Jamie Lee Curtis, who we've all grown up with Halloween and Trading Places and True Lies, and has always been like either a vixen or a scream queen, but we've totally teared her into this has-been broken down tax attorney or like accountant. And Stephanie Hsu is like a discovery, a revelation in her performance. And the Daniels, my God, I hope they do not do a Marvel film or studio film. They have so much talent. They should be like the Sardi brothers and just do their own original shit. If they could do anything as good or better as this, you don't need to be doing what Hollywood wants you to do. Keep making this type of stuff. And it definitely doesn't need a sequel.
I agree. This is definitely kind of a comeback for them because they're not as trippy but strange as hell. First film, Swiss Army Man, has its fans and it has its detractors. Here, I feel like this is something totally original that caught on, and nobody could have written or even dreamed up a movie like this except for them. And I agree. I hope they keep it original. I hope they're like Charlie Kaufman, where it's more just straight original films, not, oh, now I got to go get into a studio film where, I can give my style, but I can't give my heart. Because that is something that this film also has, is heart. It has also a devotion to some Wong Kar-wai cinema also. And it's just, it's amazing all around. And even if we have to wait in between projects for their next film, it will be worth it if it is even 50% what this movie is. That is how highly I would rate this film. Like, this should have instantly got a Criterion Collection.
Oh, yeah.
I obviously see it in its future, and I am so glad Jackie Chan turned this down.
Oh, yeah.
Because it finally gave Michelle Yeoh the recognition she deserved, a role of a lifetime that wouldn't have come in under any other circumstances. And it just, I don't know. It's just a film that just sits atop high a certain pedigree. unfortunately can't really be touched right now.
No.
I don't know how future generations will look back on it, but I think it could be in its own way this generation's 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it's a film you always get something out of every time you see it, and it might be different than what you saw before. And it's always a film you can watch on a big screen and still be amazed by and wondering how they did that. And for those tokers and drinkers out there, you can totally get smashed and still be amazed by this movie. I think, you'll even be more amazed by the movie in that condition. Yeah. So I can't recommend that film high enough. So I'll say we did have some similar movies on our list. Not a lot, but we did. So that ends this Top 10 year-end special. Thank you, folks, for watching it. And as always, that ends this business, but we always have unfinished business. I'm not going to give a recommendation because we just gave you 10.
Yeah, 10 of them.
For you to watch. Obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once is the top one we give you. So until next time, or next year for a special episode like this, we will talk to you later.